This is Arkngthand, an ancient dwemer ruin located southeast of Balmora near Moonmoth Legion Fort. It is known for a couple of things. Firstly, it's a first dungeon for most Morrowind players, since it's a part of main quest's very first mission. Secondly, one of the most infamous items of Morrowind, a dwemer puzzle box, is located right here. And this item isn't infamous because of some obscure, dark lore behind it. No, it's because almost everyone had a really hard time finding it, including me. I remember spending hours walking back and forth, dazed and confused, looking for a mysterious dwemer box. Navigating dark, haunted hills filled with traps and enemies very quickly induced a feeling of anxiety and terror as I desperately tried to find the item and leave this place. I was still new to Morrowind, and I felt terrified from the weird, sort of a steampunkish ambience with long forgotten yet still active machinery, creaking noises, echoes, and rusty, massive gears. And this could be a very reason why I always found dwemer ruins in particular so unnerving. I loved exploring dwemer strongholds, or even menacing looking Daedric ruins, but these ancient dwemer leftovers were something else. Every time I had to go inside one of them, I rushed through, hoping that my character will see the light of a day again. And Arkngthand in particular was so frustrating that I almost gave up playing when I went there for the first time. Many others shared this experience as well, as there were entire forum threads dedicated to the puzzle box mission. People would share their frustration, seek advice from fellow gamers, and even today, 20 years later, every once in a while there's a thread somewhere online about someone not being able to find the dwemer puzzle box. Today we are going to talk about Arkngthand, Morrowind's most famous dwemer ruin. This isn't so much of a mystery, but as we're gonna see, there is something unique about Arkngthand that is worth talking about. As always, my name is Alec, and thank you for joining me on the episode 3 of Let's Overanalyze Morrowind. There are several dungeon types in Morrowind, including Daedric, Dwemer, Ancient Dwemer Stronghold, or even simple random caves. Most of the time, dungeons follow a certain pattern, so all dungeons of a certain type will, more or less, follow same or a very similar design. They may vary in size and types of enemies found inside, but when it comes to design, they are very much alike, and over the years this was one of the rare criticisms of Morrowind. Well, in that regard, Arkngthand is somewhat unique. After playing Morrowind for a certain amount of time, I noticed that NPCs inside Arkngthand, and I'm talking about a pretty low-leveled gang of smugglers, have unique names that don't follow standard naming rules of Morrowind, or even Elder Scrolls in general. I will go into detail about that later, but for me this was the first lead that there is something unique about this dungeon. I wanted to know why do NPCs in this dungeon have such different unique names, and soon after I came to the conclusion that Arkngthand had to be a very first dungeon created for this game. I even posted a thread on Reddit about it, among other Morrowind mysteries, and others actually agreed that it is quite possible that Arkngthand is created first, and this could be not only because of names, but also because of different design pattern. As everyone who played Morrowind knows, Arkngthand is larger and more complex compared to other dungeons. Visually, it's more detailed, even more than some other dungeons involved in the main quest, including Dagoth's interior. It uses dwemer assets in a unique way, besides combining standard cave and ruin components. Simply put, it's built different, with a lot more attention to detail and creativity. This would also explain why is it so hard to find a dwemer puzzle box, even though technically it's right there and not really hidden from us. It just happens to be carefully placed in a well handcrafted interior. Now the question remains, why is Arkngthand only one? I believe there were two possible reasons why developers haven't made other dungeons in similar fashion. One, developers knew that Arkngthand would be too hard to navigate and maybe didn't want to ruin the gaming experience by having all the dungeons as complex. Or two, creating such detailed and large dungeons throughout the world would require a lot of time, thus the rest of the game had to be more simplified. I honestly believe that the second option involving time is more plausible since, as we know, game studios often struggle with deadlines and Bethesda is no exception. So in a way, Arkngthand can serve as a small sample of what would Morrowind be like if developers had more time and resources on their hands. Besides Arkngthand's unique design, we have also mentioned that it's a home to a group of strangely named NPCs. There are in total 12 smugglers led by boss Krito, an Imperial battle mage. Here are some of the names. This Nord is called Datman Mochtius, a name that really doesn't sound Nordic at all, or as far as I know, unlike any other name found within Elder Scrolls series. To me, it sounds more like an Easter egg, perhaps even a reference to Star Wars. This other Nord is called Christus Link, and a third and last Nord member of this gang is called Bato Veranius. And his name could very well reference two historical figures: Veranius, the 1st century AD Roman general, and Illyrian king Bato from the 2nd century BC. It's still unusual because name sounds more imperial than Nord. And as for the Christus Link, I really don't even know how to begin to analyze this name. And there's an imperial female called Red Livia, an obvious reference to Red Sonja. By far, most iconic member of the gang is Snowy Granius, found on the bridge just outside the ruin. And while his name is probably a reference to his old age, it can also loosely be related to Grandfather Frost, which is a Slavic name for Santa Claus. And this isn't something too strange or uncommon for Morrowind, as the character of Uncle Switchshare from Blood Moon DLC was, at first, meant to be called Grandfather Frost. So we know for a fact that developers entertained the idea of using such a name in a game. Moving on, there's an Imperial Surus Velvus, and Surus was a name of a war elephant of Carthaginian general Hannibal. There are also a couple of Breton names that I'm not sure if I should even try to pronounce. They just sound very random. Irbran Kirbata and Idian Talas. Talas was, by the way, a minor character in first Baldur's Gate game, a werewolf, and this may be a reference to that classic RPG, or just a coincidence, who knows. Lastly, I want to mention Redguard Frink Ruse. Now, just out of curiosity, I tried googling his name and I found an American civil rights activist, Golden Frinks. I'm not sure if this was meant to be related or is it again just a coincidence. In any case, I think it's evident that NPCs of Arkngthand do have sort of unique and more bizarre names simply because they were first created and developers probably invested more time into naming, using real-life historical references. With that said, I'm glad that NPCs in the rest of the game have a more conventional, recognizable names, such as Nords having Norse-like names or Imperials having ancient Roman, as it makes the game more recognizable and in a strange way more immersive. But again, that's just my opinion. So let me know guys, what do you think about Arkngthand and whether you agree with this theory of being possibly the first dungeon designed for a game or not. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you soon.